Hey young man, do you like drugs? Well, don't. Stop it now, or you're gonna end up like the people in this story. And trust me, you don't want to be these people. Alright guys, that's my public service announcement for the day. You can't say I didn't do it for the kids. So, listen here, I'm gonna tell you this story about my freaking crackhead neighbors that I lived beside for many months when I bought this house. If you haven't seen the video about my home, please go check it out. It's called Buying My First Home by DaveyOnEverything. So, check that out. We're gonna start this video now! Oh, I mean, you could probably just head over to the video now. I'm just gonna hang out here for a bit. Yeah, go ahead. Alrighty, I'm gonna try and keep this quick because I know sometimes these videos get a little bit long, so get right into it. First things first, I moved into this house, bad neighborhood, crackheads everywhere, so many crackheads. I should probably make the distinction that these are probably more likely meth heads than crackheads, or maybe a combo of many layers of drug use and tweaking out. So, my neighbors in particular were actually meth heads, I'm gonna say. But for the purpose of the video, let's just call them crackheads because it sounds way better. So when I moved into this house, I could immediately tell what kind of people live next door. Now, the house next door is like a semi. It's got an apartment, and then around back, there's a third apartment. So there's 3 apartments total. The owner lives in one. He's actually a solid dude, nice guy. I talk to him all the time. But the people that were living in this house when I moved in, it was actually one particular guy, and he was like the ringleader of this entire like operation of crackheads and meth heads and, you know, selling drugs and doing drugs. And it was crazy because you would go by that house at any given time, like drive by it, and there'd be like at least 4 or 5 different tweaking, scabby looking people out front with bicycles that were probably stolen. No, they were definitely stolen, allegedly. But yeah, man, so this dude is trying to sell this house, but in the meantime, you always have like the biggest riffraff in the entire Tri-Cities on his doorstep. So that would make it very hard to sell this freaking house. But anyways, I bought the house next door. I moved in. I am somewhat aware of the shady activity that is going on next door because obviously I've been at this house well over a few times before I moved in. When I moved into this house, I was in the process of like gutting it. I had walls tore out. I had freaking the ceiling down. My kitchen was a mess, and I didn't have a bedroom. Like the place was a total shit show. But I started upstairs. Besides the kitchen, I was renovating everything, and I had the kitchen still intact, so I had somewhere to make meals because a guy's got to eat, and I also needed somewhere to live. So I was actually on my mattress, which was a shitty mattress at the time, and I was sleeping in the kitchen floor with my backyard. Like my kitchen goes out to my backyard, so my backyard's right behind me. So every night, I bought this place in the summer, so everybody's out, they're having a good time. Like this is the whole neighborhood. This is almost everybody in the country is trying to enjoy the nice weather. Like I said, I was sleeping in my kitchen. There's 2 windows and a door. 2 windows and a door that face my backyard. And between mine and my neighbor's backyard, there's like a tiny little shitty fence. And that's about it. There's no sound barrier. And at this point too, I have a pathway that runs like behind or between our houses to my backyard. And there's no gate. It's just wide open with no way of stopping people from coming into my backyard. You know, these people next door had a heyday. Like I would be like, after a very long day of work and renovating my house, I would sleep on my kitchen mattress bed, and I would just want to like chill and watch a movie before I knock out. And like every night, next door neighbors, and you know, I had no problem with people making noise. I'm cool with that, man. Party, have a good time, do your thing, kids playing, whatever. But these people next door were like, every night was a whole like brawl, a whole dispute all the time, these people. They would get really, really drunk too, and they would do a ton of drugs, and then they would just have like the greatest time of their life out there. But ultimately, it always ended in like a fist fight / a brawl. Yeah, no lie, fist all the time. And the funniest part is, these people all had bicycles. Like, that was their main thing. They were like a little crackhead biker gang. So they always had these bikes around, and then at the end of the like night, but I'm talking like the end of the night for crackheads is like actually never, because they're always strung out on shit. Like, they're always tweaking. So they would stay up all night. Like, they would not go to bed. I would wake up at like 5 a.m. to go to work, and these people would be out there. And I remember the funniest moment. I go outside to go to work. It's like 5:30 in the morning. I'm like dead. And I walk outside, and I just see like two crackheads, and they're like playing road hockey with like a ball of garbage and two really shitty hockey sticks that they must have taken off someone's lawn. And it's like 5:30 in the morning. I just kind of look at them, and they don't do anything because they're in their own world. These people didn't abide to the normal conventions of society. I even ended up buying one of those like IP cameras, because every night I would hear them like ripping around on our street on bicycles, and I was so afraid that one of their cracked out asses were gonna take their bike and hit my truck with it, and I wanted to have some kind of like evidence that they did it, at least so that I could get a claim on my insurance without having to get gouged. But yeah, I would sit there and like watch the camera footage the next day, and it would just be like people like tweaking out, like ba ba da ba ba, just ripping around on bikes. I'm like, what kind of life is this? The characters that walked by. And here's another thing: the traffic at this house was ridiculous, because there was constantly people showing up at this house, different faces all the time. I'm talking like a week, you probably see like 50 different faces, and that's only the time that I was watching. Like, people were in and out of that place doing drugs, mostly buying drugs, because the guy that was renting this apartment next to me was selling meth out of the house. And that comes on later in the story, because I didn't really know that when I moved in. I thought they were just a bunch of welfare junkies that were hanging out. So as I'm like sleeping in this kitchen as well, I would hear like people on my property in my backyard. I would like look out the window, turn the exterior light on, and I would just see like two guys. Like, it was always like the same two guys too, and they would be out there like scratching themselves. And I would open the door and be like, "What the are you doing on my back lawn? What the hell, man?" And they would just be like, "Hey man, how are ya?" Like, they were friendly as hell because they were on drugs. And they would be like, "Man, we just lost our cat. The cat is gone, man." And in my head, I'm like, I've been here like a couple months, and
you don't have a cat.
And I would be like, "Hey boys, if I see the cat, I'll let you know, but you guys gotta keep moving. I'll tell you if the cat shows up. I'll bring it right to your door." This is like one of the better stories of shit that happened to me while they lived there. I fell asleep on my couch. I forgot to lock my truck. So the next morning, like, I wake up and I realize that this truck didn't get locked. And immediately I run out. It's 5 in the morning because I'm about to go to work. So I immediately run for the door. I look outside and I have this like work binder with all my stuff in it, and I see it like across the street, just like scattered everywhere. And I see like I had jumper cables and like this little roadside kit. It's all over the freaking sidewalk across the street. And I knew that I had this laser, like a laser level for, marking out lines, measuring shit. And I realized like I was brand new, like I just bought it. I look inside my truck and it's gone. And oddly enough, my hard hat is gone. I don't know why you would steal that, but that's all I got, thankfully. So as I'm picking up my shit, I see a backpack sitting like probably 20 feet down the road a little bit. Clearly, that's probably the guy who stole my shit. It's a backpack, and he's an idiot, and he stayed around. So I go up to the and I'm like, at this point, I am just furious. Like, I'm ready to knock heads. And I'm not, like I said in other videos, I'm not a tough guy, man. I'm not a fighter. But at this moment, I was just ready to throw down. Like, I wasn't having any of it. So I go to this backpack and I like rip it open. In this backpack, There was like chains and like bolt cutters, bike locks. Like I said, these people were stealing bikes and they would bring them to this guy's house. So as I'm opening this up and looking in this bag, this crackhead flies out of the house and he comes over. He's like, "Hey man, that's my bag." And I freaking lost it. Immediately start yelling at this dude like, "Somebody stole my shit! You broke into my truck! Blah blah blah, I'm sick of these crackheads! Blah blah blah," cursing this dude out. "Sick of these crackheads, sick of these guys next door." And he's like, "Hey man, I understand, I get it. I'm like, "You're one of them! You just came out of that house! Fuck you!" And he's just like, "No man," and he's like trying to like get his backpack. You could tell he was all like trying to get his backpack back. I just take the bag, I toss it aside. He like scrambles to grab this backpack and he's like, "Oh man, wasn't me," and blah blah blah. I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here." And he did, because like crackheads, like either a crackhead who's like super scared and useless, or they're like full on tough guy, like nothing to lose. So it could have went either way. This guy was a scaredy cat. Like he ripped out of there. Anyways, I immediately get in my truck because I know no stores are open and I know where all the crackheads hang out. So I start going around downtown to the bus terminal, to the shelter, to the pawn shops, to like these little scuzzy sections of town that people just like gather around and crash in bushes and tent up places. And I'm in my car in like my sweats because I was just woke up, and I'm ripping around downtown like looking for this like crackhead. In my head I just pictured this junkie wearing my bright blue hard hat with all these like stickers on it and holding my DeWalt laser level. So I'm ripping around just angry looking for somebody fitting this description, and I search for a while. I look around, I'm like, I don't care if I'm late for work, forget it, I gotta find my laser. I just bought this thing, man. The most frustrating thing about crackheads is they steal your expensive things and then pawn them for like peanuts, like dollars. You pay $200 for something and a crackhead's gonna sell it for $10. So I'm sitting here like, man, my brand new laser, I didn't even get to use the damn thing, and these crackheads are gonna sell it for like 20 bucks. So I'm sitting there just pissed in my truck. I didn't find the guy, obviously. He took it and stashed it somewhere, and then in the morning later on, he went and sold it. So I never got my laser back. But if you have my laser still, which I know you don't because you needed drugs, shame on you. Shame on you. So this crackhead's out there, jacked up, tweaked out, hanging out in front of this dude's house on a bicycle. I go to my backyard. He stops me and says, "I heard you think you got some stuff stolen out of your truck and you think it's these people in this house." And I'm like, I turn to him and you can like almost see the steam coming out of my ears. I'm so angry. And at this point, I've been here for a few months and I don't have any regard for these people. If you want to come and beat me up, be my guest, but I'm gonna say my piece. So I turn to the dude, steam coming out of ears, and I say, "I don't think that somebody stole something from my truck out of this house.
I know
It was somebody in this house." And he turns to me and says, "No man, I promise this guy's a good guy." I'm like, "Guy, I've been around this place long enough to know that everybody in this house is a crackhead. And I know all about this shit. So don't try and lie to me saying that none of you guys in this house stole my shit and broke into my truck." And like this dude was just like, at this point, I'm waiting for him to just come over around the lawn and be like, "Oh yeah, you got something to say," and just knock me out. But he did not. He actually like kind of like, "Okay man, sorry, I apologize." And I'm just like, "Yeah dude, whatever." Needless to say, after probably like 10 months of these people not paying rent, totally destroying this dude's apartment that he was renting to them, bringing much criminal activity to the neighborhood, leaving pipes and needles on people's lawns and in their backyards, and just causing like general mischief and annoyance for the entire neighborhood. Finally, it catches up to them, and I believe it's the sheriff where I'm from that deals with evictions. Now, my neighbor, the dude that owns the house, was in court like all the time trying to get these people evicted, but fortunately it's like really tough to boot someone out, even if they haven't paid you rent in 9-10 months. So, but eventually the sheriff comes and he tells them, and this is like a strong-armed, old-school type of dude. He comes in, he knocks on the door, the meth heads open the door. They open the door, they see that it's a cop, and like they immediately try to like shut the door, but this dude, no lie, this old dude, strong arms the door and keeps it open. And he lets them have it. He gives them hell for it. And he's the sheriff. He's not there to like police drugs and criminal activity. He's just there to kick people out of their houses when they're being inappropriate. So he gives them like 2 weeks or something. Like, you got to be out in 2 weeks. I'll be back this day to kick you out, regardless if you've moved or not. Of course, these people didn't do shit for 2 weeks. All they did was the only thing they were worried about was getting as many bicycle parts out of the house as possible. I came home one day and somebody had thrown up all over my concrete. And again, I'm pissed. That's a whole other story. But I go to the backyard. I'm trying to hose down this puke. And I see dudes like handing bike fenders out and bike axles out of this window to this other crackhead. And they're just like, hey man, like, hey, what's up? How you doing? And I'm like, no, where do I live? So eventually the day comes where the sheriff's gonna come back and boot them out. He shows up. These people haven't moved shit. Now, they're crackheads, so they don't really have too many items, but I guess still had enough in there that the sheriff was like, alright, you got like an hour. Get a truck here or something, move your stuff out. And the best part about all this was they must have been someone's mom or something that showed up and rented them a U-Haul truck, like a big U-Haul truck. And I'm not sure why they needed such a big U-Haul truck, but they got this huge truck. And this old lady's like, I felt bad for her because it must be embarrassing. This is probably one of her grandkids or one of her kids. And she's just out on the sidewalk like waiting for them to load their garbage into this truck. Best part was, it starts pouring rain as they're moving all their crap into this truck. I'm like, this is karma, because these people not only left needles around kids and drug paraphernalia around these kids that live next door. They stole from us. They sold drugs in my neighborhood. They were doing drugs in the neighborhood. They were destroying property. They were just causing so much havoc on my street. And I feel like it pouring down like that was just a little bit of a payback. And I loved it. I know it's petty, but I loved every second of it. I stood out on my lawn and I watched them get poured on. And it was amazing. Skip forward a couple days, and my neighbor, they're fully out. My neighbor comes and talks to me, and he's telling me all this stuff. He brings me into the apartment, and this place had cameras. Like, so you walk into the house, there was a screen, a monitor, and they had cameras at all the doorways, all the positions, because it turns out they actually had a fairly large meth operation out of this house, and that's why there was always so much traffic coming there. These guys were selling meth out of the house, which I'm not sure how they never got in trouble for it, but anyways, they were selling meth and stealing bikes. So when you go into the apartment, and this apartment was like recently like renovated, so it had like new flooring and new cabinets and all this stuff, and the place was freaking destroyed. This place was a mess. Tread marks everywhere. The cabinets smashed up. Just disgusting garbage, drug paraphernalia, pipes and needles and all kinds of shit. And they had all these cameras set up too. And it was pretty disgusting to go in there. But I had to. I wanted to see what this whole place is about. Like, literally, there were bikes stacked on top of each other, hanging off of the kitchen cabinets. Like, these people didn't use the house. They were just using it to store bikes and sell meth. And it was a party for sure. A bike and meth party. Just like drunken brawls, cracked out brawls, people doing all kinds of dumb shit. And I was very happy when they got booted out. Funny enough, I go down to where all the crackheads hang out. I drive my truck down there all the time because I go to the Tim Hortons to get coffee. And I've seen this guy down there, my neighbor down there, with people like huddled around him because he's the plug for meth, I guess. I mean, I don't know. So yeah, I see him down there at least a few times, and I just kind of laugh now about all the shenanigans that went down over the course of like 10 or 11 months that they had been living there at the same time as me. I ended up putting a gate up so they couldn't get into my backyard. I got the camera. I made sure I locked my truck every night before I went to bed. So the message of this story is, don't buy a house beside a meth house. So I guess I learned that lesson a little bit too late, but you don't have to, because I just fed you the knowledge. So I hope you learned a couple things here, and that's all I got, man. I could have went on for hours about these neighbors, but you don't want to sit here that long. So that's the end of the video. I appreciate you guys watching. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, give me a like, drop a comment, tell me what you'd like to see next. And as always, you guys have a fantastic day. I'm Davey on Everything.